Hey, everyone. All right, so
Yeah.
you know how much I love a good mystery, right? And there's no bigger mystery than what's out there beyond our own little planet.
Right.
And today's topic definitely falls into that category. We're talking extraterrestrials, but with a twist.
Sounds intriguing.
Buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into a YouTube channel called Barbury Loves Islands. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it?
It's a mouthful, but definitely an attention-grabbing name. What's the story there?
Okay, so Barbury refers to Barbury Castle, in England, which you might know as the site of a very famous crop circle back in 1991. And let me tell you, that crop circle, it caused quite a stir.
Crop circles definitely tend to do that, don't they? So what makes this one stand out? And what about the Loves Islands part?
Okay, so we're getting to that. The channel's creator, Rand Heaslip, he claims to have received information, let's call it communication from credible sources, that suggests some extraterrestrial beings view humanity in a very specific way. And get this, they see us as self-responsible islands of source consciousness.
Islands of source consciousness. That's a new one. What does that even mean?
Right, it stopped me in my tracks too. So essentially what I gathered is that it means we're all individual expressions of this, well, universal energy or awareness, like we're all connected to this source, but we each experience it in our own unique way. Kind of like, islands scattered across an ocean, separate but part of something much, much bigger.
I see, like individual expressions of a unified whole.
And look, I know it sounds out there, but think about it, right? It's a very different perspective on extraterrestrial contact than what we usually hear. It's not about invasions.
No, it's not the usual doom and gloom alien narrative. This is more hopeful, optimistic even.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole Barbury Loves Islands thing so fascinating. Because if you really think about it, the love Rand is talking about, it's not romantic love. It's more like this deep respect for individuality, for free will. Like these beings, if they're out there, they're just observing, letting us do our thing.
Right, like a hands-off approach to intergalactic friendship, appreciating us from afar, letting us figure things out on our own.
Exactly. And that message really resonated with me, this idea that we're all connected, all part of something bigger than ourselves, but still free to make our own choices. It's both humbling and empowering, don't you think?
Definitely. It makes you reconsider your place in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. And that's what I appreciate about Rand's approach with this channel. He's not trying to force anyone to believe in aliens or anything like that. It's more about opening our minds to possibilities, to approaching the unknown with curiosity and wonder rather than fear, which, let's be honest, is something we could all use a little more of these days.
I agree. We can always use a little more curiosity and open-mindedness, especially when it comes to things we don't fully understand.
Right. So even if you're not entirely sold on the whole alien communication thing, and that's okay, maybe this idea of being islands of source consciousness can be a springboard for some personal reflection. How does it make you feel? How does it change your perspective on things? It's certainly given me a lot to think about.
Me too. And it begs the question, if we entertain for a moment the idea that we are connected in this way as islands of consciousness, what does that mean for our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe? It's a fascinating thought experiment, to say the least.
It really is. What are we digging into today?
Well, we had a listener request to tackle the Zanfretta Encounters.
Yes. The Italian night watchman who claimed he was abducted multiple times.
Multiple. Okay, see, that's what makes this one so interesting. It wasn't just a one-time thing. We're talking years of alleged abductions, strange lights, even some reptilian beings thrown in for good measure.
It's a wild one for sure. And what makes it even more interesting is the fact that Italy has its own kind of, well, history with these sorts of unusual phenomena, especially when it comes to UFO sightings.
Oh, yeah, I was looking into that. Some of those stories are insane. Like, did you hear about that one in Florence back in 1954 during a football match?
Vaguely. Remind me.
Thousands of people watching this game, and suddenly they see all these shiny objects hovering in the sky.
In broad daylight.
Yeah. And then this weird silky stuff starts raining down from above. They called it angel hair.
Ah, right. The angel hair phenomenon.
Yeah.
Always makes you wonder what people were really seeing.
No, right. I mean, was it some kind of weird weather thing?
Yeah.
Or something else? It's cases like that that really get the imagination going.
Absolutely. It creates that sense of wonder that there might be more to our world than meets the eye, which is probably why these stories, like the Zanfretta Encounters, continue to fascinate us.
Exactly. So let's get back to Zanfretta. It's December 1978. He's working as a security guard near Genoa. What exactly happened to him that night?
Well, picture this. It's December 6th, just after midnight. It's freezing cold, the roads are icy, and Zanfretta is on patrol when his car suddenly stalls.
Stalls. Just like that.
That's what he claimed. Anyway, his car dies near this empty country house, one of his client's properties. So naturally, he thinks it might be burglars, right?
Makes sense in the middle of the night.
So he grabs his flashlight and his service weapon and heads out to investigate.
Okay, at this point, I'm already a little creeped out.
And it's about to get a whole lot creepier, because what Zanfretta claims happened next is the stuff of nightmares. He says he comes face to face with this, well, he describes it as a towering figure.
Towering? How towering are we talking?
At least 10 feet tall, he said, with green, scaly skin, like a reptile.
Okay, yeah, I'd be running for the hills at that point.
Well, according to Zanfretta, that's pretty much what he did. He hightailed it back to his car, and as he's fumbling for the door, he sees this massive, triangular craft rise up silently from behind the house.
Wait, so he actually sees a UFO?
And naturally, he's freaking out, right? Trying to radio for help, but he can barely speak. All he manages to get out is, "They aren't men. They aren't men."
I can only imagine the terror in his voice. So what happens next? Do his colleagues find him?
About an hour later, they find him, totally in shock.
Yeah.
But here's the strange part. Despite the freezing temperatures, his clothes are warm.
Warm. Like not even cold. Okay, now that's just bizarre. Was there any other physical evidence at the scene?
There was. When the Carabinieri, the Italian military police, showed up, they found these huge, horseshoe-shaped impressions in the frozen ground right behind the house.
Horseshoe-shaped. How big were these impressions?
About 9 feet wide, according to the reports.
9 feet. Okay, now that's what I call a footprint. But was there anyone else to back up his story? I mean, did anyone else see anything unusual that night?
You bet they did. Get this. 52 residents from the nearby town reported seeing a bright light in the sky.
At the same time.
That's the thing. They all said it happened around the same time Zanfretta radioed for help. Now, were they all seeing the same thing he was seeing? Who knows?
52 people.
It's not something you can just brush off easily.
No kidding. Okay, so at this point, what are the authorities doing with all of this? We've got a strange story, giant footprints in the ground.
And dozens of potential UFO sightings. Well, the investigation takes an interesting turn here. They bring in a hypnotherapist to work with Zanfretta.
To help him remember what happened.
Exactly, to see if they can get some clearer details about that night. And it's under hypnosis that he starts talking about these beings he calls, get this, the Dragos.
The Dragos.
Yeah, the Dragos.
Okay, this is where it goes from a close encounter to a full-blown alien abduction.
Pretty much. Under hypnosis, he describes these Dragos in vivid detail. 10 feet tall, green, scaly skin, with these really intense yellow eyes. And get this, the eyes are triangular.
Triangular. Okay, now that's just creepy. I'm picturing some kind of sci-fi movie monster here. But how much of this can we really take at face value? I mean, it's all under hypnosis, right?
That's the million-dollar question with any kind of hypnotic regression.
Yeah.
There's no way to know for sure if these are real memories or just, you know, his subconscious going a little wild.
It's not like we can just hop in a spaceship and go to this planet to check it out.
Not yet, anyway. But it doesn't stop there. Zanfretta claims he was abducted multiple times over the next few years.
Multiple times. So this wasn't just a one-off thing for him.
Apparently not. He keeps getting abducted, and each time he talks about this bright green light that appears in the sky like it's drawing him upwards.
Like a moth to a flame, except the flame is a UFO.
Exactly. And there's one abduction in particular that really stands out, and not just because of what Zanfretta experienced.
Oh, what happened?
This time, he wasn't alone. It was December 2nd, 1979, and 4 of his fellow security guards were out looking for him when it happened.
Wait, looking for him? So he was already missing?
Yeah, it seems he disappeared again. Anyway, these 4 guards are out searching for him, and suddenly this huge UFO appears, bathing their cars in this bright light.
Okay, so they actually saw it, this UFO.
That's what they claimed. Their engines all died, and one of the guards, a Lieutenant Kasiba, even fired his gun at the craft. Imagine the scene.
Talk about a close encounter. So they all see this UFO, and then what? What happens to Zanfretta?
Well, that's the thing. He's gone, vanished. But this time there are witnesses, multiple witnesses, who saw the whole thing.
Okay, now this is getting really interesting. So did this experience have a lasting impact on the other guards? I mean, seeing something like that.
It definitely left its mark on them, especially one guard, Germano Zanardi. He never really recovered from what he saw that night. It's a tragic footnote to this whole story, because years later, Zanardi took his own life.
Wow, that's heavy stuff. It makes you wonder about the psychological toll these kinds of events can have. Even if you don't believe in aliens, something that unexplainable, it has to do something to you.
Absolutely. But it doesn't end there. When they hypnotize Zanfretta again, this time he describes the inside of the craft, and it gets even weirder.
Weirder? How so?
He says there were other beings present, not just the Dragos. He describes a creature that looked like a frog, something resembling a large bird, and, get this, a caveman.
A caveman? What's a caveman doing in a UFO?
Your guess is as good as mine. But it gets even stranger. Zanfretta says the Dragos entrusted him with something during this encounter.
Entrusted him? With what?
The sphere. They told him to give this sphere to a Dr. J. Allen Hynek.
Hold on, Dr. Hynek, the astronomer, the one who investigated UFOs for the Air Force.
The one and only.
Wow, okay. So what was so important about this sphere that he needed to give it to one of the world's leading UFO experts?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But here's the thing. He never gave it to Hynek.
He didn't. Why not?
He said he hid it, waiting for further instructions from the beings. To this day, no one knows what was in that sphere or why Dr. Hynek was supposed to get it.
And the plot thickens. It's around this time things get even more bizarre. In later hypnosis sessions, Zanfretta starts speaking, but not Italian.
Wait, like gibberish?
Not gibberish, exactly. He was speaking fluently in a language no one could understand.
You're kidding, like a whole other language. Did anyone try to figure out what he was saying?
Oh yeah, they brought in linguists, code breakers, you name it. But no one could recognize any known language or cipher system in those recordings.
So what was it? Alien language? That's the big question, isn't it? Some people think he was faking it, others that maybe it was some kind of subconscious invention. But then there's the camp that believes it could be a real example of what we call xenolinguistics.
Xenolinguistics?
The study of languages not from Earth, alien languages.
Okay, now that's getting into some X-Files territory. So this unknown language, this sphere meant for a famous UFO researcher, did any of this ever get figured out?
That's the thing about the Zanfretta case. It's full of dead ends. He never did give that sphere to Dr. Hynek, never said why, just that he kept it hidden.
Sounds like a recipe for anxiety, if you ask me. But I gotta ask, this wasn't all happening in secret, was it? Did anyone else know about this besides the investigators?
Oh, it blew up, became a media sensation. Zanfretta was interviewed everywhere, studied by scientists, ufologists, everybody. Public was hooked.
I bet. This was the 70s, right? When UFOs were all the rage. Did people buy his story?
It was a mixed bag, really. Some people called him a fraud. Others thought he was maybe, not all there mentally. But a lot of people, they believed him, especially with those footprints, those witnesses.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? About what's really out there.
That's the thing about these encounters. Even if you're skeptical, they make you question, don't they?
They do.
Huh.
Speaking of questioning, what happened to Zanfretta after all of this? Did all those abductions, that sphere, that strange language, did it change him?
It's hard to imagine something like that not changing you,
Yeah.
He kept saying these encounters are real, that he had a purpose, even if he didn't get it.
It's a lot to carry. To be honest, I'm not sure I'd want to be abducted by aliens, even if they did give me a cool souvenir. It's a fascinating story, though.
It really is. Whether you believe Zanfretta or not, his story reminds us that there's so much we don't know, so many mysteries still out there.
That's a good point to end on, I think. Mysteries and the wonder of it all. Well, folks, there you have it. The Zanfretta Encounters. Thanks for diving into this strange tale with us today.
Always a pleasure to explore these kinds of enigmas.
Until next time, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and as always, keep an open mind.